Well, get fired up. Your team got better these last few days, whether they signed someone, traded someone, signed a bunch, or sat and did nothing. 32 teams across the NFL executed on their offseason plans. Like it and believe it or not, they know what they are doing. This is Scouting the League, and today we talk free agency with Neil Stratton and former pro director, three-time Super Bowl champion, Ronnie McGill, the free agency process, what it was like with both Nick Caserio and Bill Belichick. A good deal, bad deal segment here. It's going to be a fun one, so stick around. First, though, make sure you head over, like, subscribe, and share this podcast wherever you're listening and watching. Get some video up on YouTube today. See some of the players we're talking about as we go. So make sure you're doing that. Like it, subscribe it, share it. Do those things that help us out. Subscribing is the big one. Make sure you head over, follow us on the socials as well. Ronnie McGill is at RMcGill25. Check the show notes for that one. I, of course, am at RightStepADV on Twitter. Neil is at Inside the League. Make sure you check out my website as well, rsafootball.com. That's Right Step Advising, where I'm doing a little bit of everything to help anybody in the football world. Scouts and aspiring scouts, make sure you go check out thescoutingcommunity.com for the resources and everything you're going to need in that space. And make sure you check out our partners over at bluemaca.com, the insoles that will upgrade and make those shoes better in every way. But let's get to our guest. Ronnie McGill played running back for the Tar Heels in Chapel Hill, got his NFL career started in Tennessee just a few years before I did after that. From there, he spent nearly 10 years working for the Patriots, progressing from scouting assistant to pro scout. He then joined Nick Caserio in Houston, where he spent about 3 years as a pro scout and a director of pro scouting. Since his time in the NFL, he joined the Senior Bowl as a scout. He has the Ronnie McGill Group, where he consults for teams across the country and is the co-host of the Believe program alongside Darian Durant and Justin Durant. Let's get into it today as we talk free agency, all things free agency. Ronnie McGill, welcome to Scouting the League.
Thank you for having me in, y'all.
It is, man, holy cow, legal tampering period. It has been wild. It's been fast paced. Nobody wins in March. Again, we all know that. Again, a lot of stuff that looks good on paper now. We'll see where it all comes out in this fall. But again, you have to get better. You have to see a plan. You've got to see some progress for some of these teams. I think you can start to see that happening before we get into, again, the free agency process as a whole, what happens for the pro department, which really goes, runs behind the scenes. It's all about draft, all about the college guys. But again, we'll talk some pro scouting. Let's talk about you. Again, quick origin story, what you do, what your expertise is, your pro scouting background. Kind of give us who you are.
Ronnie McGill. I began my career in Tennessee just as a scouting assistant, got up to New England, and I spent 11 years there, 7 years, 8 years as a pro scout, then on to Houston, where I was a pro scout and then director of pro scouting.
Good. Well, you were a player at some note as well. Don't need to be bashful there. Came out of School of States in the East Coast, kinda. Tell us about that.
Went to the University of North Carolina. I was a 4-year starter, running back. Ran through some guys, got all banged up. Went to the combine, failed the physical miserably. Felt it so bad that one of the trainers from New England remembered me when I got up there for my job. That's how bad it was. Went back for a recheck, failed it again. I was going to keep trying to play, but my knee just wasn't good. Wanted to get into football, but I wasn't 100% sure what I wanted to do. I felt like I didn't want to coach because I did a little bit of that when I got hurt one time at UNC. Was not my thing. So went the personnel route, got in through one of my friends, Trey Caserio, he's with the Bears now. He was with Tennessee. He helped me get in with an interview, got there, and then it can be a revolving door once you get into the league. So I was there and then ended up with New England for a long time.
Well, the scouts that start off in Tennessee, Ryan, they come with kind of asterisks. You never know quite what you're getting there, but I'm glad that you emerged the way Rodrik did. That's a good thing. Now, why pro and not college?
It's funny when I first got the job, I told everybody that I want to be a college scout. I told my sister because she, in the old days, the young guys won't know this, but you used to have to send mail out. So she helped me stuff a bunch of letters, probably 300, send them to every single GM, assistant GMs, player personnel, director of player personnel. She helped me do that. So I told her, I was like, I want to be a college scout. I want to go scout these college guys. I get into the office in Tennessee. I still was kind of on the fence. When I got to New England, that's when I realized that the college guys are out of the building, and I love the structure, and I love that you know what your week is going to look like, you know what your month's going to look like, you know what your calendar year is going to look like on the pro side. And I also felt like the good thing about New England is when you're a scouting assistant, you get to do both sides. You get to go out, you get to hit some colleges, and then you also get to do some pro. I felt like in my weeks when I was out as a scouting assistant, you feel like a contractor, like an independent contractor that works for the team. You don't really know what's going on, even in those small weeks that I was gone. You feel like you're missing so much stuff that's going on in the building. So I felt like the best way to feel like that I was really a part of what was going on and I was able to, get the beat of the team was going to be as a pro scout. So I wanted to go on the pro side. Probably had the opportunity to go college, but I felt like I wanted to. My personality fit better as a pro scout.
Yeah, you talked about that pulse of the team. It is two different jobs now. I spent about 2 years, 2.5 years doing the pro thing before I went on the road in the Midwest. And man, it's amazing how quickly and how easily you lose that pulse of your own team. And you're trying to get updates, and everybody in the buildings, again, they're trying to win a game every week, and you respect it and you understand it. You got a job to do. It is starkly different jobs, though, for sure.
And one of the other things that I don't know if fans really realize is the league changes so much. It's the same, but it changes. And when you're a college scout, you have an inability to watch as much NFL film as you want to.
Yeah.
I'm probably assuming that the fans think, oh, he's a scout, so he's just watching all football. When you're on the road, you're watching 99% college film. The 1% of the NFL film that you're watching is your team during the season. So you might know your team. You don't know what Y tight ends look like in the league. You don't know what F tight ends look like in the league. You don't know any of that because you're just so focused on getting these college reports in. So that was another thing. I felt like once you get on the pro side, you know what's playing in the league. You do lose sight of what's happening in college and the trends that college are taking, but I believe you have a better pulse on everything that's going on around the league and it gives you the ability to build rosters, not necessarily find the players, but build the rosters.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly. Well, let's talk about that again from a pro scouting standpoint. Again, like you said, it's the flip of college. In pro, you are preparing for advances. You are taking care of short lists, street lists. You're getting workouts. You're monitoring the waiver wire. You're doing all these things. Again, within that process, you're starting to build for what the time we're in now in free agency. Hey, who looks good? Who are these second, third, fourth year guys that, hey, we need to get a fresh report. Last one we had was a draft report. You get into free agency. Talk about your experience both in New England, again, under Nick down in Houston, the free agency process. Again, talk about, building your reports, building your profiles on players for that pro side to get to where you are locked and loaded come middle of March.
Working with Nick it was great because you know that you're not going to be doing any work that you feel like is just busy work. You're not going to just be watching guys just to be watching guys. But what we also did and what he does a really good job of is stand up on who's going to be the free agents and what contracts are going to be coming up. So we were never, I don't feel like we were ever behind on when we were going to get to the free agencies, guys. Even if it was during preseason, we knew that there was going to be some guys that were going to be on the bubble at the end of the season. So you start taking a peek at those guys then. And it was basically the same because in Houston as it was in New England, because we kind of brought everything, not everything, but we brought a good chunk of it because we worked together on the pro side for so long. We tinkered with some things that the two of us liked from the pro side in New England, and then kind of molded into where we wanted it to be in Houston. One of the good things about going to a different organization is you see different people do different things. So Matt Badgerin, I'd give him absolute credit. He is a guy who, when he was doing the pro department, he wanted to have every player in the league watched. Now, me being a little bit of a stubborn guy, didn't want to do that. So I was like, that's a lot of reports. There's no need of writing a report on Patrick Mahomes. We know where Patrick Mahomes is. But to his point, it's hard to know what the league is if you're not watching the league. So he wanted to get as many guys done as possible per year. It's a little bit harder, but you have to start early. So it was two different ways. Nick's way is, let's hit these guys that are important when we kind of get to these different points. And Baz was, let's just hammer all of them out. So I saw it both ways. And I don't really know if there's a right way or a wrong way. I mean, there's 100 ways to skin a cat. No, that's not how many ways there's to skin a cat, but I've done it multiple ways, and I don't think there's one way is right, one way is wrong. Everybody just has their way in which they want to do it.
Yeah. Well, again, we know there's 32 teams, 32 ways to do things. And even year to year, again, the longer Nick's in Houston, he's going to adjust and tweak his process. And again, Elliott, New England's probably changing a little bit when you go from Gerard to Mike Vrabel. And again, everything changes year to year based on, hey, let's be more efficient. Let's pool resources here. So it certainly all changes. And again, a lot of different ways to win. And but at the same time, there are some nice blueprints and everybody sticks fairly close to it at the same time. You just try to refine your process based on where you're at. So you were with, before we get into the true free agent talk, you were a part of a pretty good draft class there in Houston, hitting on 2 first rounders, right? CJ Stroud and Will Anderson. Talk about, again, you go through the free agency process, becomes a big draft for that group, and then you hit on 2 first rounders in the way you did. Talk about that process. Was the pro department involved in that? And kind of talk about it from the Texans' perspective.
Well, I think it started the year before that. When Nick got down there wasn't any cap space. It was 4 draft picks, I believe, was our first year. First pick was in the 3rd, 4th round. So it wasn't like we had a lot of capital to be able to build. So I think it was a year out, and we knew not having very many players that were going to be that we were going to be able to select. We had to fill spots in free agency, and then hopefully get the team that we needed, because we knew we weren't going to draft our quarterback of the future that late. So by the time we get to CJ's and Will's draft, you feel like the team's in a pretty good spot. We got a new head coach in, so now it's time to flip it and, take advantage of all these pieces that you finally have and all this money that you finally have. And that's where CJ and Will came in. And again, I give credit to both D'Amico and to Nick. I don't know if CJ was both those guys' guy, and I don't know if Will was both those guys' guy, but I do know that they came together and ended up drafting both of those guys. And I mean, you gotta give credit to James Lifford too, because he's the director of college scouting, and they just stacked the board well. And I think in the situation that we was in, we were the second to the worst team in the country, or in the league, but not chasing players in free agency and not chasing players in the draft, because that we do know will get you burnt. So not chasing some free agent quarterback because we feel like we have to go out and just get a quarterback. CJ kind of fell into that spot, and then made a bunch of moves to get back up and to get Will.
Well, now speaking of those moves, Ronnie, y'all paid a king's ransom to stay at 3 and get Will Anderson. I mean, was there a good amount of tension there? But knowing that, we got a lot of needs, we're giving up a lot of picks for one guy. Kind of, what was the conversation there? Was it kind of, we may be cutting our own throats, or did you feel so good about Anderson that there's no regrets at all?
Nick wanted that, and there's a there's not a saying, but from my time in New England and being around Bill and being around Nick, I learned the difference between those two decision makers when it comes to going out and getting what you want is the same thing as the Les Snead. If you want to make a trade and you think a player is good enough to trade for him, then go out and get the player. Go out and do the trade to get that player. Les Snead does it all the time right now. Nick did it when Will Anderson came up. I personally think a lot of GMs in the league are scared to pull the trigger. There's not very many Will Andersons in the league right now, and we didn't think that there was very many Will Andersons that were in that draft. And if you think that player is that good and you have the resources to try to be able to acquire the player, then do what it takes to acquire the player. And everything that you thought he was comes to fruition. Now I'll say he was he came in for a pre-draft visit and he gave a speech at the end of it because the question was what makes you different than Hutchinson and all those other guys that got drafted the year before you. And it was very, very passionate speech, and the tears started coming to his eyes, and I felt like I was about to get up and run into a wall. Like, and when we walked out, I said, I remember because our pro department did our pre-draft visits separately than everybody else did. We would be with the players, and I remember walking out and being like, man, if I had to draft a person, that would be the person that I would draft. And it just so happens that person also comes in a 6'4", 360-pound body that is a really good football player too. So it just everything hit, like the character, the player. And you don't get those players you don't get very many opportunities to get those type of people and players. So again, you just have to take advantage of it when it kind of not falls in your lap, but it's there to be had.
Yeah. Let's take it from your Houston time. We're going to stay on an edge rusher who, man, I was surprised got out of Las Vegas. Again, you talk about a franchise that's for the first time in 31 years, traded a first-round pick, and they said, hey, not just one. When we go in, we're going all in. We're going to trade 2 first-rounders for Max Crosby, somebody who, man, it's hard to say, yeah, that guy's a Raider. And again, the way it soured, the way things kind of went south, I thought, again, with the new head coach, with the GM, kind of where things were trending, they're going to figure this out. Yet Baltimore, again, makes an offer they can't refuse. Again, maybe things were that bad with Max. Again, you never know on the outside. But talk about your reaction, your thoughts, seeing Max Crosby playing, knowing how valuable that edge rusher is, knowing that Baltimore went and spent, again, things that they aren't used to spending to go get a player. Talk about the Max Crosby trade.
From the Raiders standpoint, completely see why they did it. They have Lamar. He's not old, but as you know, he's getting a little bit older. And the way that he played when he was younger, he was always the best athlete on the field. It's not quite the best athlete anymore, so you assume that the window is going to get smaller. The best way to win a football game from the defensive standpoint is having somebody who can affect the passer. That's the key way to winning in an NFL. You can have a good run defense, but if you don't have a guy, just one guy, who can really change the game, then you're going to have to dial up and you're going to have to try to figure out how to create pressures through a scheme. Crosby changes everything up front for any team that he's going to be on. He's been with the Raiders, but you have to assume that he's just going to be able to change everything for the Ravens, and that doesn't make it easier, but it makes it a little bit simpler for the defensive coordinator when it comes to game time. It's like, all right, we'll just put Max here. If we think that this guy's weak, we can put Max there. So I completely see why they did what they felt like they had to do. It's the same thing with the Will Anderson. Like, there's a player that you think is available, call him until they tell you that he's not available. And as far as the trade in the Raiders, I think it's very simple. If a player says that he doesn't want to be there and he is telling you over and over, don't assume that you're going to be able to reverse psychology him into wanting to stay in your organization. It sounds bad, but it's a business, and the player is an asset. And at this point in time in his career, he's probably the biggest asset that you're going to have. So if you have the chance to change the trajectory of your franchise while not improving as much on that one spot, then you have to take it. And I think Tom being in New England helps a little bit with that. Spytech, that's going to help him from where he came from. So I think those two minds figured that out, that we're going to get 2 first-round draft picks, which could turn into many, many more draft picks. So why not take the chance right now and do it? We might not be as good on the edge this upcoming year, but we're going to get better in a lot of other spaces. And I think that's more valuable than just having one player, unless you are right there, and it's going to push you over the edge, which I think the Ravens probably felt like they were. So for me, it's a win-win trade for both teams.
Yeah.
So it's a decisive move, Ronnie, obviously. Let's talk about decisive moves on the other side. In 2024, I thought the Broncos were crazy for cutting Russell Wilson. $85 million cap. Well, the Dolphins showed them that ain't nothing. They cut Tua today, $99 million cap. So we're talking about almost $100 million cap hit has become a thing. Is it part of the game now, Ronnie? I mean, am I wrong in saying that's crazy? Can you not try to figure out a way if you make that kind of a commitment to a player or no?
It is crazy. That's a big number. And when I first got into the league and a couple of years in, you wouldn't think about cutting anybody that had a cap hit. You definitely wouldn't think of anybody that almost has a what is that? How many figures is that? 9-figure cap hit? Yeah. So I mean, you wouldn't do it. Yeah, you wouldn't do it back in those days. But I think now with where the league is, especially if you're a new staff coming in, you don't know how much time you have. So you might as well go get the guys who you think are going to be there for the long haul. It gives Tua a chance to get out. And I'm not saying that he's definitely not the worst quarterback in the league. The contract was a big contract. And if I'm a GM and I'm coming in and I don't think that he was worth that, then I would have probably done the same thing. And I think with the Broncos, where they see it at, and where they saw it was, that guy's not going to be our quarterback of the future. So let's just get out of it now. Let's screw it. We'll eat whatever we need to eat in the future. And if we win with this bad cap hit, then it's going to be a lot better for us once we get to the backside of that. It's much easier in the league if you just say, man, we screw it. We know what we're up against. Let's just be up against it now than to keep pushing everything down the road or kicking the can down the road. And me personally, again, it's just something that I always think about is, if you draft a rookie quarterback and the rookie quarterback hits, it doesn't matter what you're paying your other quarterback. If you total it out, it's going to equal what the top quarterbacks in the league are making. So basically right now, Denver's paying what they consider their top quarterback the same as other teams are paying their top quarterback. It's just spread out over 2 quarterbacks. It's a stupid way to think of it sometimes in my head, but that's the way that I think about it is, though I don't like it right now. Yeah.
Our salary cap guy, Nick Polk, used to talk about, again, percentages in rooms, right? Again, your quarterback room is going to take 15%, 20% of your cap hit, 25. Again, whatever that number is between however many guys, you can allocate that percentage to a room, which is, again, why it's a little surprising to me that Miami then turns around and goes and signs Malik Willis. Because, again, you talk about the Denver situation. We'll get to the next question, because we see some parallels. Broncos going Russell Wilson to Bo Nix. The Dolphins are going to go to Malik Willis now, but you're paying him a lot more than that rookie quarterback contract. So, again, staying on Miami right now, you go to you've got the massive hit. You're paying him a bunch. You've also got an expensive quarterback for at least the next 2. Again, haven't seen the full contract. That third year, again, we usually know how that third year is in contracts. You've just got a lot of money tied up in that room. Now, again, you've got to reload a lot of that roster, and there probably aren't a lot of other guys that are going to be big cap numbers. But again, talk about that being the next move as opposed to hopefully hitting on one of these quarterbacks in the 26th draft.
Yeah, I guess it's just because of they're familiar with the guy. Yeah. And they were up there with him, so they felt comfortable with it. Me, when you talk about getting rid of Tua on that big number and still eating a big number, I'm automatically thinking you're going to the draft and you're going to try to find somebody in the draft.
Yeah.
So I get it. They got a guy who they know. They know him as a person. They know him as a player. Maybe they're thinking instead of drafting a guy, regardless of it being less money, we basically have a guy who is still a young guy. It's just like drafting one of these older quarterbacks that's coming out of the draft, but has NFL experience under him. Maybe they think that's the difference in that's the $17 million difference or $20 million difference or whatever it's going to come out to be. Maybe I guess that's the way they're thinking of it. And then they've also got rid of some other big contracts, which again, I think if you're going to go one way, you just go that way. If you're going to get rid of everybody, just save all your money and your picks and then draft guys. That's the way I would approach. I think once you get in the middle of two different strategies, you kind of put yourself in a little bit of a funky place. So I don't know. That's just it was just a little off to me.
Ronnie, based on what you're telling me right now, they liked his character and ability, obviously, but his character, I presume his leadership ability enough to where they're willing to not only take a giant hit, but also sign a big deal. We hear about character in the draft all the time. Is it equally as important in free agency? And if so, can you get a clear read on who the player is in the other team's locker room the way you can during the college evaluation process?
It's a lot harder in college. There's so many people who are going to talk to you about this stuff. In the league, it's harder to find who those guys will be. You're not going to call the police in Las Vegas and say, "What do you think about Max Crosby?" to try to get some character background. In college, you can't. You can go to. You're going to get the academic staff. You're going to get the equipment staff. You'll get everybody you need. In the pro department, obviously you'll get the arrests. You won't get every arrest. You'll get some pullovers, some citations. You're banking on any coach that you have on your staff being able to get something from a coach on another staff, not knowing if that player is going to go back. So you're not always sure if the information in what you're going to get is true, but you're hoping that it is. You bank on players that's been around these guys. You realize that in free agency you're gonna get some guys that are completely different than what you thought they were, just because it's a lot harder to piece together all this information once these guys are in the league and every step that they're taking is not watched by 40 people. It's just watched by a couple of people. So you're hoping that some of the stuff that they had on college will carry over into the NFL. There are players that's changed. One that I remember was Brandon Bolden. I remember he came in for his visit in New England, and it was a little not a bad character, but he got in trouble a little bit before a football game, and he told us a story. And Brandon Bolden now is one of my favorite football players. He's just an awesome dude. So that's one that if you were one of those other teams, you wouldn't have known how he was, because all you're going off of is what he did in college and what he did coming out of college, and to what he is now. So it can be tough. If you have enough connections around the league, you'll be able to get enough information, and the character is still very important. You're still not going to bring in a guy who is upside down on your board because of his character coming out of college. That's very unlikely that those guys switch. So you're still using it. And then the other thing is there's a cost associated with it now, and it's much bigger than the cost of drafting a guy. The draft pick is a draft pick, a first rounder is a first rounder. But signing somebody to $100 million deal is a lot different than drafting them in the second round. And so so the character stuff is still gonna play a major part, because owners not throwing out that much money for somebody who they think might have some character issues.
Well, let's talk about a few more of the deals. Again, big money being thrown around. Nothing official yet. Have to state that. Again, we're in the legal tampering period, but we've seen some trades. We've seen some, again, players moving. Again, probably more. The trend has been a little bit more teams are willing to kind of go again what you'd call the NBA route. Let's just move big pieces, big names, again different than what it was even 10 years ago, where one or two big names in offseason. We've seen a bunch of guys moving around. Jalen Phillips going to Carolina, he gets that premier edge rusher coming back from that Achilles after being in Philly. The big one, Alec Pierce, becomes the highest paid wide receiver in Indy. And in addition, the Colts move on from Michael Pittman. Talk about any of these, either of those moves, those three moves, any other moves you've seen where it's like, wow, they're going for it, or head scratchers, or ones that just really caught your eye and kind of stop you short.
Jalen Phillips, to a degree. What was it, 5 sacks last year? That's a lot of money for that many sacks. And I don't care how many pressures you get. At the end of the day, if you're paying somebody $100 million, he better be getting some sacks. That one really is the only one, and the injury. So I mean, you start adding all that stuff up. I don't think that's not a deal. I know that's not a deal we'd have done in New England. I don't think that's really a deal that Nick would do. But somebody has money, so you can go out and get them, and hopefully what you thought you were going to get a couple of years ago, you'll get now. I know Giro, that's my guy. I think he's a great defensive coordinator, so it'd be interesting to see what they put together and what he's going to be able to do. But just the initial number seems a little bit high for me for the production and the injury.
Yeah.
Maybe they're doing this because they missed on Milton last year because they thought they had him, and then during a legal tampering period, and all of a sudden he switches and it's like, I'm going to New England.
Yeah. Certainly. Again, you get six sacks, 10 hits. The medical, again, obviously came off the Achilles, and then again, a wild college story. If you've ever read about that, or again, known it through the draft process, again, what he went through from UCLA to Miami. Again, really, really unique story. Again, hopefully, again, Carolina, they had a phenomenal draft last year, obviously come out and win a division title. Even if they backed into the playoffs, they were the NFC South division champs, and fully expected them to be competing in that division for the a title again this year. So again, you go out and add to that. Again, the Alec Pierce one seems, again, the reports that he turned down more money elsewhere. Again, don't believe everything you hear out in the media. That's what I said on Tuesday's podcast this week. But again, you talk about the best yards per catch average 2 straight years, a guy that was mid-rounder out of Cincinnati. Talk about Alec Pierce staying in Indy for that kind of money.
I'll pat him on the back for getting that money when the PFF predictions and all the over the cap predictions, everything was coming out. I was thinking, I don't see him getting that much. He actually went north of what I initially was expecting. I'll just say that one. They see him as their number one, and that's about the going rate for number one right now. So I can understand while they will go out and do it. And you tend to overpay for the guys that were on your roster. Right. You tend to overpay for the guys that were on your roster who you like for the locker room. And if you don't think that you're going to be able to get better than that, then you overpay for a guy who you are completely confident in, or comfortable in, not confident, but comfortable and confident in, I guess, to go out and produce. And then basically what they're saying is that average per catch is going to stay up there because we're paying them that much money, which I sometimes get a little bit nervous about with guys that are very boom or bust, as in he's going to have a 30-yard reception or he's not going to have a reception at all. So again, would I have done it? Probably not, but I can completely understand where Indy was coming from and why they wanted to do it. And it is Indy, right?
Yeah. Yep.
I was about to say, I lost my mind. It was going to San Francisco. No. So I can see.
There's a different big wide receiver going to San Francisco.
Say what?
Yeah, a pretty big name went to San Francisco, Ronnie. I want to throw some more names at you. We'll throw some more names at you later, but Before we move into some of the specific names, you referenced the fact that when you're with the Patriots, the feeling was, hey, if this guy is a guy and a guy that you feel is good in the locker room, let's do what we can to keep him. What other lessons did you? I mean, I think that one of the Bill Belichick's biggest talents is making those hard decisions on players and knowing who to keep and knowing who to let go and all those kind of things. Bringing Randy Moss, I mean, his name is mud in the league. He comes in, he's a big time player for him. What other things did you learn from Belichick from a roster building standpoint, making the pieces fit?
I guess this will go back to the Pierce. So I sat up here and I said, he's the number one for them, and it's a boom or a bust. Instead of knocking players for what they don't do, he might not run a slant, he might not run a dig, he might not run a crosser, but he's a good go ball player. He stretches the field really well. Bill, I'm gonna bring up the player, and we're talking about Patrick Chung after he left, and he didn't look good in the last defense that we ran, and then he goes to Philadelphia and he's not having the greatest time out there. And he said, "What do y'all think about him?" And we come back and we give our opinion on him. And he says, "Quit telling me what he can't do and telling me what he does do well." And we brought Chung back, and Chung became one of the I'm gonna say he became one of the first true big nickels, and that was kind of his role, as he played big nickel. And before that, I'd worked in the league for years, and I don't really remember like that hybrid safety / star or whatever. And he started to do that, and he became really good at it and became a weapon for us. And from that point on, start thinking about guys of really what they do well. Like, you do strengths and weaknesses for every player. Don't let the strengths or don't let the weaknesses be the only thing that you really talk about. Like, Ruben Bain right now has short arms as a pass rusher, but he's a good pass rusher, and he is very powerful. He's a good run defender. He has strong hands. He has heavy hands. He plays with leverage. Like, let that be what you talk about when you talk about the player. If you want to knock him down a little bit for the other stuff, then knock him down, but at least give him credit for the stuff that he does. Learn that from Bill. That was a huge thing. It happened again when we were talking about Jamie Collins coming out and what we were going to do with Jamie Collins. Everybody knocked him for not being the greatest pass rusher. So quit talking about him as a pass rusher. That's not the only thing that he does. He does other stuff. Talk about him for that other stuff. And another big one was know when it's time to part ways with a player. I see it as a business, and I talk to the players when I talk to them as like, we're cool, but you got to remember that this is a business. Just because your name is whatever it is and you have been whatever you have been for your entire career doesn't mean that carries over for your entire career. When you start to go down, you start to go down. It doesn't matter what you were doing 5 or 6 years ago. You don't need to bring that up. And you need to remember, as a staff, don't get attached to what the player used to be. Worry about where the player is and what the player is going to do for you in the future. So I think if teams did that more, then you would see more trades. One, you would see more guys hit the market. Two, and I think teams get really caught up on not letting guys go because of the name that they associate with that player.
Yeah,
I think with 12 left, we have to ask this question. Do you feel like Bill felt like, okay, it's time, it's inevitable, his skills have got to start sliding? Or was it a situation where maybe the egos didn't get along as well and he became bigger than the team? Or was it kind of both, I guess?
I would say that was above my pay grade, but I would also say it's probably a combination of a bunch of stuff. They probably could have been able to hang on a little bit longer if the three of them, so Brady, Bill, and Mr. Kraft, would have really sat down and really ironed some stuff out. I think Tom went against what everybody thinks of. When you get to that age, your play is going to decline. And I think there were people that were thinking he was going to decline more than he did. And have y'all ever been around Tom Brady?
No.
All right.
Unfortunately, I was at the end zone when James White jumped across the end zone in overtime. That was about as close to 12 as I got, which is plenty as close as I ever want to get to him.
I'll say Julian Edelman is probably the second or third most competitive person that I've ever been around. The top, and there's a huge gap, is Tom Brady. If you say something negative about him, he will 100% use it as motivation. We've seen all those motivational films that he put out on Instagram every single summer about somebody saying what he could and what he couldn't do. I think he went down there to Tampa Bay to prove a point, and he proved it that he could still win at the highest level in the NFL. Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, the knock was he was old, and Boston media kept saying, "Oh, he's old. Maybe they should move on to Jimmy. Oh, then maybe they should draft another quarterback." And I think every time he took it like rubbed him the wrong way.
It's always a tough thing about the NFL is just by being a player in the NFL, you're already an anomaly. You've already beaten every odd. You've already beaten every expectation to be a top 5 player at your position. Again, you've beaten the odds over and over again. And again, a lot of agents, a lot of coaches, front offices, man, you bet on anomalies all the time. And Tom was the single anomaly among them all with the way he played at his age, continuing to ascend. Again, everybody was expecting him to fall off that cliff. He never did. Between the ears, hard to beat. The competitiveness, hard to beat. The way he took care of his body. Again, the commitment level, every bit of that took. Again, yeah, there's a lot of good PR stories. TB12, he's got his good team, but again, you look, the proof's in the pudding. At the end of the day, for him, you want to have a career like 12. Again, you got to do some of the things that he did and sacrificed certainly to be there. So, Neil, what are some of these other free agency deals as we kind of start to wrap up here? Again, they're coming hot and fast. Trades, free agents. Who else you want to hit on here before we're done?
Just kind of give us a couple words on. We're going to throw a bunch of deals at you. Some of these guys have been playing in the league for a while. Maybe some of them are more projections. I'm just going to throw a few names at you. Let's start with Tyler Linderbaum, a center. 3 years, $81 million by the Raiders, a team that's got a lot of needs. Good deal, bad deal, Ronnie.
There's a lot of money, but Spytek and Brady together makes me say that they see the importance of a center, especially the guy that is a minority
quarterback coming in.
Yeah, so a lot of money, but I mean, if it works out, then it's a good signing for them because they got their centerpiece on the line.
Okay. Quiddy Pay, 3 years, 48, Raiders again. They're spending money like there's no tomorrow, man.
I'm probably going to the draft. I'll probably just sign some depth player and then go to the draft.
Yeah, Quiddy's a tough one because again, I got to do him coming out of Michigan, and he's one of those guys. You feel the presence on that person now. Again, that was the one thing that popped up for me for being, again, a short-armed edge rusher that, again, you want more out of. Easy to talk about what he can't do. Man, you feel that presence in the person. He's a special guy in that way.
So last year, Washington goes in, spends a king's ransom in free agency, makes some trades, doesn't work out, quarterback gets hurt. This year, OA gets 4 years, $100 million, 68 guaranteed for a guy that the Ravens gave up on, but who had he had some games, he had a few sacks for the Chargers. Good deal, bad deal for that kind of commitment running.
I've talked about him with some other people. Still showing flashes. Again, I'm not chasing pass rushers in the NFL unless it's Max Crosby or one of those guys, Daniil Hunter. Like those guys, I'm going to go out and pay a pretty penny for in free agency. The guys who are showing me that they're 5 to 10 sack guys, I try to find one of those guys in the draft for a lot cheaper. I bring in somebody on the back end who's going to be a filler who could, depending on what the scheme is, can get me 5.5, 9.5 sacks. And then I'm going to try to find somebody else that's cheaper to bridge that gap.
So Rodrik's old team let running back Tyler Allgeier go to the Cardinals, 2 years, 12.25, up to 16.25.
It's not
Good
bad.
risk there.
Good risk. Good risk. Because he's shown he can produce when he's had snaps. So he's probably gonna get some touches, obviously, with that money. And I think the team, depending on where the reason why it can go up to where it can go up to, feels like there's something there that he might be able to get to if he gets his touches. So I think that sounds like a good deal for me.
Man, and you pair him, talk about a bruising backfield. You paired Tyler Algier with James Conner there. Man, run us some split back veer, get them downhill, and we got something working in Arizona.
That's true.
Yeah, that
All
is
right,
true.
we talked about Jalen Phillips and Alec Pierce. What about Kenneth Walker going to the Chiefs? 3 years, 45, 28.7 guaranteed.
I like it. Not just because he was the Super Bowl MVP, which if he didn't get that, I was going to be upset. I was going to call in Rodrik David or somebody. I like it because we've watched the Chiefs kind of struggle a little bit on offense of late because they have players, but they just haven't had playmakers. And that guy showed that if he can get the ball out in space, then he can do a lot of things. And Patrick Mahomes has a way of getting the guys the ball out in space. Andy Reid's offense is going to be there. They got the offensive coordinator back. So it seems like they are probably, by offensive coordinator, they got the offensive coordinator back that they used to have. So I think it's going to be there for him to be able to be the featured back and produce what we saw once he got into the playoffs. So for me, that's a really good addition for the player of need for a team that was needing something.
Our friend Jordan Reed of ESPN had Kansas City. His hope was Jeremiah Love at 9 there. That's got to be Kansas City thinking, hey, we've got no shot of getting Jeremiah Love at 9. Let's go ahead and go get Kenneth Walker.
Yeah.
I think once you get to this point, if you can get a player, then you say, I'm just going to get that player and we'll see where everything falls. I would still draft the guy if I still thought he was good enough.
Hey, another split back. Hey, get Jeremiah Love, Kenneth Walker. Again, split back fear. Let's go old school across the league.
Yep, let's
Hey,
triple option.
You put Doug in the slot, man. I mean, he do a lot of things. He's a valuable player. Now, are you nervous at all about a guy who's splitting carries coming in and being your featured guy? Right.
In this case,
Yeah.
you talking about with Pacheco?
With Walker, yeah. Well, with Walker coming from Seattle, where he wasn't the bell cow. I mean,
No.
I think what he's getting paid probably is going to be the bell cow in Kansas City, don't you think?
Well, he will be, but it's like he still has a guy back there with him right now, unless I'm losing my mind and Pacheco's going somewhere else.
Isaiah Pacheco, yeah.
So they still have the same thing. They have the big back, and then they have him. I think just the difference is it's going to be a reverse. He's gonna have game scheme towards him. He's gonna have game plan scheme towards him, where he's not going in as, okay, well, I got these couple of plays. He's gonna have more plays that's probably gonna be dedicated to him. Do you want to pay top dollar for a guy who's going to be splitting carries? No, you don't. Not necessarily. But again, they had a really big fall off. They didn't make it as far as anybody thought they were going to make it this past season.
Right.
So I think they know what they need. They needed another offensive weapon. Obviously, moving McDuffie doesn't really help on the other side. But again, their offense was really the missing link last year. It felt like it was a bunch of games where they just weren't doing what we were used to them being able to do. I don't think getting a guy who can make plays in space will ever hurt that, regardless of how much you have to kind of pay to get that person, especially if you think he can be a not a feature back, but a key piece and an impact player to your offense.
Yeah.
Okay. That's fair enough. We talked about how much money is being spent in the quarterback room in Miami, but setting us that aside, do you think Willis is a success with Dolphins?
So Willis is a tough one for me. It's a really tough one. And I know people were bringing up, it's kind of similar money to Sam Darnold. his success is different than Sam Darnold's success was. Sam Darnold was a starter for many, many years. He has a bunch of throws under his belt. He had a really good season in Minnesota after going through everything that he went through in other places and dealing with the media that he dealt with in New York. So for him to get what he got, I completely understand it. I just think it's two different ends of the spectrum. I think Willis's success was very limited sample size. So that's why the money that's going to Miami was a little much for me. And it would have been a little much for me regardless of where he went to and how much they gave him. And when people started initially spitting that number out, I'm thinking, I just don't see how it all is correlating to what he was supposed to be getting paid. I thought he looked good in the games that he played, but it's such a small sample size. It reminded me kind of a Matt Flynn of you still don't know what you're going to get, and you decided to pay him that much money. So I think they're just banking on whatever little success he had will at least turn into some kind of success down there. But again, I think it's completely different than Sam Darnold's situation.
Yeah. I think Kurt Warner said, looking at 3 years, 28 throws. He said, again, you can really evaluate. Again, take the screens, take the quick game, the check down, 28 throws. I have to imagine that this was Jeff Hafley saying in practice for 1 year, 2 years, however many, like, I've seen this guy do X, Y, and Z practice every week. I've been in the building. That had to have played a fairly significant factor in this, didn't it?
Yeah, you would think so. And I know some scouts and some coaches love practices. I'm not one of those guys. It's like we'll get the game week and they say, oh, this player didn't have a good practice, so who knows? I watched Jimmy Garoppolo have the absolute worst practice in the history of practices of a quarterback. We were practicing and it was raining. It was during the preseason. And I remember going into the meeting room. I was like, I don't know what we're going to do when the second team goes out there for this preseason game. And he absolutely killed it. And then we come back the next week and we're like, oh, well, he'll bounce back from that game, or he's going to continue from that game and have a great week of practice. Next week, not good. Not good at all. It was like back down. We play that game, amazing. So some players kind of do have a little bit of a gamer mentality, and then some players are opposite. I'm not going to say his name, but we had a cornerback who we drafted in the second round. There's a long list of them up there in New England who every single year we go through practices and they say he's going to be the starter, and he never started one game for us, I don't believe.
Wow.
So I'm not giving anybody 27, 28, $29 million a year based on what they do in practice, unless it's Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, he could go with Jim Morris Sr., I believe, talking about practice, not a game. No, that was AI. That was AI. Sorry, different game, man. Not a game practice. We're talking about practice.
Wrong legendary video clip there, but yeah. All right. Mike Evans leaving the Bucs, 3 years, up to $60.4 million.
I'm surprised he left. I'll start with that. I'm very, very, very surprised he left. Not because I didn't think he could go somewhere else and get some money. Obviously, we knew he was going to be able to get some money somewhere else. I just thought he was going to finish his career there. Like, you had such a long career in one space. Maybe Tom was like, hey, man, it's the same thing I did. I got to the end of my career and I just wanted to go play somewhere else and get a fresh start. So maybe that was it. Maybe he wanted to test himself against that factory that's by the stadium out there and see if he can get them.
Well, we know he definitely didn't leave Florida for the tax break in California.
Did not at all. I would question his common sense on that one. But the player going to the team, I guess, again, that makes sense. They don't know who their number one is going to be because their number one has committed to not playing for the team ever again. So they bring in a guy who's experienced with a very experienced staff, a very experienced roster. He probably thinks that he's at the end of it. So let me go ahead and go out there and try to get me another Super Bowl win. And I know people were saying, some of the media people were saying he never won a Super Bowl, but he did.
Yeah.
So he can go out there and try to get another one. For that age, that player, the money, no issues, because then again, you have to think about what the player is bringing into your locker room. And that player, regardless of what players you put around him on the offense, are going to learn something, especially in that receiver room. So that becomes almost an invaluable piece and hard to put money on what he's going to be able to bring around whatever young offensive skill players you have.
Interesting. Okay. Last one. Wide receiver Wan'Dale Robinson going from the Giants to Titans, 4 years, $70 million.
Yes. I did text somebody from the Titans. I said, y'all, let's throw some money out there, man. It's good for him. Great for him.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have seen that. I wouldn't have seen that deal. I wouldn't have seen that much money for the player. Maybe Dayball has something already planned up for him, part of the offense that they want to try to get to, that he might have not been able to get to while he was up there. I don't know. It came off as a lot of money for the player. But then again, you think back to some of the contracts that were bigger, but not at the top of the market. And like, I think of Christian Kirk. I remember when he signed his deal, I initially was doing a predictions model, and Nick came to me, and I remember we were talking about, I said, it's a big difference. It was from maybe 7 million to like 20 million. And I was like, I don't know who's going to pay him 20 million. He goes down to Jacksonville and he has a really good 2 seasons down there. So it could be one of those situations where they see something and Dayball knows something. So maybe they think that they're going to be able to get that value out. And it's not at the top of the market.
Yeah. Well, some of these teams, it almost looks like, hey, you got a bunch of cap room. We got to find somewhere to spend it. Let's just throw it out there and, again, front load some contracts. We know the cap is only going to go up. Again, that's always one of these considerations you have to think about. Hey, cap's not getting any smaller in the NFL. They're going to just keep on raking it in as they do. It's a juggernaut. It allows us to get on here and talk about players and free agency for an hour, which we love. If you have more guys that you want to ask Ronnie on, he's on Twitter at RMcGill25. Tweet at him. Good deal, bad deal. Neil started a trend on here. Good deal, bad deal. Name the player. Ask Ronnie what he thinks. He'd be happy to give you that opinion. Be nice to him. Again, he will let you know. Good deal, bad deal. Of course, hit Neil Stratton. He's at Inside the League. I'm at Right Step ADV. You can find us all on there. Again, Ronnie, it's been fun. Free agencies, man, it's full steam ahead. We're still in the middle of phase one. We'll get a bunch of more players signed, a bunch more money. Really appreciate you being on with us.
Glad to be here. People can be mean to me. Bill Belichick. I was a head coach. I can take anything.
Don't dare, Ronnie. It's easy to do that from a computer screen, man. Keyboard.
I
We
know.
appreciate you being with us, brother.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Agents, before we go, make sure you go check out Agent Live 360. It is at agentlive360.com for everything you need for your agency, from players to coaches, managing profiles, tracking invoices, sending invoices, getting paid, keeping up on every element of your entire agency. Notification emails, file, folder, storage, ROI, transactions, invoices, calendar, contracts, teams, reps, everything all in one spot for you. That is Agent Live 360. Hop on, request a demo. Yours truly will hop on, walk you through it. I can promise you we will talk some football as well. Sign up now with code TRIAL90 for a 90-day, 3-month trial at just $10 a month for Agent Live 360. That's at agentlive360.com. Go check it out now.